Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And yeah, another Halloween card. If you missed the beginning of my Halloween 2023 card series, I'll have a link to that video at the end of this video. And then as I get videos uploaded that are specifically Halloween cards, I will be compiling them all into a YouTube playlist like I always do. And yeah, Picket Studios had an enormous release this month. They actually delayed it a bit because it was huge and there was a ton of Halloween products in it, which I'm very excited about. So I will link to their newest release. You can check that out in the description box below. There's a bunch of Halloween things and fall themed things if you're not into Halloween. Speaking of that though, thank you all so much for the excitement on me starting my Halloween series. It's just fun. Again, this is all just for fun. Why not? And I got a kick out of a few of you commenting that, you know, you're not big Halloween fans, but you watched the video and you're gonna join us on the dark side of crafting. So welcome. We have the best snacks because Halloween candy is the best. And actually, let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Halloween candy or candy if you don't do the Halloween thing. I love Halloween candy. There's something about Halloween sized things. They're my favorite. Like any type of chocolate bar, if it's the Halloween size. Yes. My other favorite, and it's funny because I was thinking about that. And I have a mug of them. I didn't even know these came in little rolls like this. These are just sweet tarts, but they're in the little, here in Canada, we call them rockets. In the States, you guys call them Smarties. I don't like those. They taste like chalk. Really. I'm not a fan. They just taste like chalk. But these, because I like regular sweet tarts, but there's something about making them little tiny that I'm like, these are the best ever. They taste better when they're tiny. I don't know. That's just how Halloween candy works. So that's one of my favorites. I have a sweet tooth. But yeah, anyway, keep watching. I'll show you guys how I made this super fun little card, and it's on an action wobble. So it's interactive and he bounces around and it's loads of fun. So yeah, keep watching and I'll show you how it's made. So I used Picket Studios. People Are My Favorite Mummy stamp set as my like inspiration. And I just put a piece of Simon Says Stamps smooth white cardstock and I just put it into my little mini MISTI here. And I'm going to stamp this mummy with Simon's Intense Block ink, which is a alcohol marker friendly ink. And because this is a brand new stamp set, I just rub my fingers really well across the stamp. That helps basically condition stamps to take ink better. So you can rub your hands on it. You can use a white eraser. Another thing is to just ink it up and stamp it a bunch of times on scrap paper. Things like that. Just the more you use a stamp, the better it stamps. So I stamped it with that ink. And then this first little bit here, this is real time. I do not color near as fast. I don't do anything as fast as I show in videos. I speed them up because otherwise a lot of times it's redundant. You can slow down videos on YouTube. It's the little like gear icon in the lower right. You can speed them up and slow them down. So that's also an option. And yeah, my coloring though, I definitely sped up here like a whole bunch because it's very, very simple. I just used warm gray Copic markers, just working darkest to lightest, not following any sorts of processes on like light sources or anything like that. I'm just throwing color on. I've mentioned this in many videos. I really like some of my favorite images to color are mummies, ghosts, polar bears, penguins. What's the common denominator there? Just simple. But the fun thing with this little dude is you could do any sort of like color combo really. I was just like, be kind of fun to add some like greens and purples to it. But for now, I just went with warm grays. So put on the darkest and then we just kept blending it out with each lighter shade. And then once I was done with that, I decided to add some green to the little bits of his exposed eyes there. And that was it. Just, again, simple. Just super, super simple. So added that. And then once I was done coloring him, I am going to use the coordinating wafer die to cut him out. So I'm going to tape that wafer die into place with little bits of washi tape so that it doesn't shift when I run it through my die cut machine. And after I did that, I decided to use some ink around the edges of this. I don't mind the white edges on my die cuts. It just is what it is, and it doesn't bother me. I've shown in other videos though, like, you know, you can use a Copic marker. I could have done that here. I could have just used one of those warm gray Copic markers and just quickly went around. It would have been fine. But I was just curious. So I grabbed one of my little Waffle Flower shader brushes, and then this is Simon Says Stamp's Cozy Positively Saturated ink, and I just added it. And I wasn't worried about it going onto the image because I colored him with warm grays, so the ink that kind of covers it just adds to it, really. So just simple, you know? And if the white edge doesn't bother you at all, leave it. I was going to, but I just thought, I was like, why not? You know, I'm just curious, like everything. And there's going to be another thing I do that I was like, let's see what happens. So added all of that around the edges of this little dude. So love him. I just think he's cute. So after I did that, I took another panel of white cardstock. This is A2 white cardstock. And I have this, this is the mini Haunted Moon blending stencil. And it's 3 pieces technically plus the mask, and the mask I used some PIXIE spray with, although in the end I could have just folded up a piece of washi tape because I'm using my Pouncers, so it wouldn't have moved the mask really anyway. And then I'm using my paper Pouncers, and I'm using Oxide inks with them. And I've mentioned this before with specifically the paper Pouncers. These are not what I would reach for when I'm doing like a blended background, because that's not what these are for. These are more for just adding ink, especially like die cuts, things like that. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say how they've really helped with, because if you've got like arthritis, you know, and it just issues with your hands, it's a lot less work than trying to hold a brush and blend in that motion. That was literally the reason behind Picket Fence coming out with these. So that said, I've made it clear. I was like, I wouldn't, you know, use this for a background, but I was curious and I was like, what would happen? What would happen if I did? Why not? This is looking like a hot mess. Trust me. This looks like a hot mess. It's gonna look like a hot mess. In the end, I'm actually quite happy with it. I had faith that it was gonna work. And I just followed it through to the end, because I've done many a background, and in the videos and the comments, you guys are just like, I just thought it was awful. And then in the end, it was all changed. And I was like, well, yeah, you saw the finished card, you know, like it happens, man. But it's true. Like sometimes you just got to go all the way to the end, especially with things like galaxy backgrounds. I've done many videos doing that, and it looks like a hot mess till you have the splatter. And then it's like, oh, same thing with this kind of. So I used Fossilized Amber. That was my first, light shade. I did that around the mask. And then I used some Faded Jeans and some Chip Sapphire, and then Rustic Wilderness at the bottom, and then Black Soot. And I actually really leaned into the texture that, is created with the sponges. So I get the little like circly bits, and it just, I liked it. It wasn't originally, I was like, can I get a smooth one? But I was like, no, this actually kind of works. It's like a spooky, you think of like misty Halloween sort of a night. I was like, I'm liking this. And just let me finish the background, because it's still looking a little, But once I was done, the background, I removed the mask, and then I'm going to use the 2 bottom parts of this stencil to add the detail to the moon. And again, using the Fossilized Amber, just Oxide ink. And I'm using a little lighter hand on this bigger portion, and then the one with the little smaller detail, I'm going to use a little bit deeper ink. And then whatever was left over on the paper pouncer, I just lightly dab that on top of this whole moon area, so that it just, kind of covers up just the stark white of the cardstock. And then splatter, because splatter fixes everything. So white gouache. Stuck a little bit of that on my palette, got my little fan brush, added a tiny bit of water to thin out the gouache so it can splatter, and then heavily splatter this across everything. And right there, it's fixed. It looks great. Love it. Still going to add more. So did the white gouache first. This will dry back a bit as well. The gouache will kind of absorb a bit of the oxide inks. So it'll be a teensy bit softer. And then after I did that, I'm going to add black splatter, which my absolute favorite product for black splatter is Black Soot Distress Paint. The thing you need to remember with Black Soot Distress Paint is, one, it's very liquidy. It's just the consistency with this paint. It doesn't have any like fillers in it. And 2, distress paints are permanent when dry. So wash out your brush, your tools, etc. as soon as you're done, because otherwise it's just not going anywhere. So I had set the background aside to dry. And then I pulled out this is the Slimline Ominous Tree wafer die, and is meant for a slimline card. That's why it's like shaped like that. It is an ominous tree. But I was like, oh, what if I cut it in half? And then, you know, I could have these like creepy, weird trees peeking out on either side. I was like, yes. So I die cut it from black cardstock, cut it in half. And then my little adhesive of choice for this is just craft tacky glue that I have in a little Gina K precision bottle, and just little dabs will do ya. That's all you need. It doesn't need to be completely perfect. I just little dots, whatever, get it on there, and then I adhere these on either side of my background. And then I just flip this over and I use my scissors to trim off everything that's hanging over the edge. And it worked. So I've got these cool, like, weird trees on either side. And then I die cut some gray cardstock with the Slimline Scene Building Broken Fence wafer die. And figured out where I wanted to place that. And then same thing, just adhered that down with some craft tacky glue. Once I got that adhered down, I'm going to flip that over again as well, and then trim off just the excess with my scissors. And off camera, I white heat embossed one of the sentiments from that People Are My Favorite Mummy stamp set, and just use the coordinating wafer die to die cut that. And then my card base is going to be a top folding A2 white note card. And I'm going to stamp that mummy on the inside with that same cozy, positively saturated ink. And then I'm going to take a sentiment from that same set, figure out where I want to place that. And then that I'm going to stamp with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. So I got that lined up. Again, rub my fingers on there because it's a brand new stamp. Inked it up with the Nocturne ink, stamped it, and the inside of the card is complete. So now I can adhere my card front. I didn't cut it down at all, so this is going to completely cover the card base. So I'm going to adhere that with craft tacky glue. And then once I've got that adhered into place, originally I was just going to adhere the, mummy, pop it up with some foam tape, that sort of a thing. But then I was like, oh, I haven't used an action wobble in a hot minute. I can't even remember the last time, maybe the last Halloween series or something. Haven't used one in a while. So first off, I'm going to adhere my little sentiment. So I'm just going to adhere that with craft tacky glue. And I just stuck it to the fence. So got that adhered in place. And then, yeah, this is a mini action wobble. If you've never used these before, they're super fun. There's 2 different sizes. This is the smaller size. There are larger ones, but I needed this size and it just fit. You can slightly trim them down, but you don't have a whole lot of leeway here. But the magic of these is they are a spring and they go completely flat. So it makes it really easy to mail these, and they're super fun. So you peel off the backing. I stuck it to the back of this, and then you peel off the backing of the other side. That took me a second with this one. And then I just press them into place, and that's it. I will show at the end how he, bounces around. It's one of the silliest things, and it's one of my favorites because I've mentioned this before. I'm not big on interactive cards. Like, I love them. I love seeing people make them. I love all of it. It's so much fun. I don't often like making them because if I have to think really hard and do ridiculous amounts of like math and physics and everything else, I'm just like, no. But action wobbles, I'll do those all the time. They're simple. But yeah, I need to do more interactive cards because they really are fun. But anyway, I used some gem mixes from Picket. This is the Sands of Time mix, and the color was just kind of perfect. So I sprinkled those throughout the card. And then I'll show you guys the action wobble. It's so fun. So it goes completely flat, just like so. This card is like flat, So really easy to mail. But then he pops out And then he dances around. Like, I could do this all day. It's so fun. And it's just fun. Love it. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I will link to my first Halloween video. That'll be linked at the very end, at the end screen. In the description box below the video, I will have a link to my blog post. In my blog post, I have the full-size pictures of everything. I have picture links to all the supplies, all that info. So that'll be in the description box below the video, along with the supply list. So you can check that out below if you are interested. And as always, thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs-upping and commenting, letting those robot overlords know you guys like what you see. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one.